I want to give you some hopeful data, like some actual statistics. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. Okay, I know there's all kinds of crazy, awful things going on in the world, and I don't want to minimize that. However, in difficult times, sometimes we have the tendency to get so focused on the bad and difficult things that we miss the hopeful things. We miss the hopeful statistics, and especially hopeful statistics that expand out past the last couple of years. So there's been an unfortunate rise in anti-vaccine propaganda and conspiracy theories, and there is really real negative impacts of that, right? The vaccination rate in the United States has dropped by like 3 to 5% depending on where you look, and that actually caused some measles outbreaks. That's awful. However, the hopeful statistic is that in the 1970s, like 5% of the world's population of children received the essential vaccines, and now that's over 85%. And even with the drop in the US vaccination rate, that actually only amounts to about 0.1% decrease worldwide. We all know that there's a lot of war that's going on all the time. There always is, and there's always threats and anxiety about more war. But the way war has been waged has changed. And like in the early 1900s, there was over 10 million people who were dying every year from war-related deaths. That number is now somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000. Here's a fun one. How much do you have to work at sort of the average salary in order to have an hour of reading light at night? That's an important measure because of all the things that being able to sort of extend your day when it's dark can do, right? Obviously you can read, you can study, you can do all kinds of really important things that improve your life and improve the state of the world. Before 1800, they used something called tallow candles, and it would cost you about 6 hours of work to have an additional hour of reading light at night. Now in 1880, they invented the kerosene lamp, and that dropped the amount of time you had to work for an hour of reading light to 15 minutes. Still an enormous amount of work just to have an hour of reading light at night. But now, an hour of reading light is going to cost you about or less than 1 second of work. But let's talk about poverty. So when researchers study poverty, they classify it at different levels. The lowest level is called extreme poverty. And extreme poverty right now is pegged at about $2.15 per day. People who are living on $2.15 per day. That's obviously adjusted for different regions and all of that kind of stuff, but that's the basic number. Now, in the 1800s, 85% of the world was living in extreme poverty, and today it's 10%. Now, I don't want to minimize any of the conflict and crazy stuff that's going on today, but as a pastor, one of my jobs is, in addition to fighting injustice, is to try to spread some hope. And that comes from spirituality, but I am also a deep skeptic, so I want to pair those spirituality pieces with data. And really, what helps is zooming out just a little bit from right now, from a sort of very laser focused, sometimes myopic view of what's happening in the day-to-day, and see the scale and the progress of humanity in general. And of course, that hope should also fuel us to continue to try to get that to move forward in our time. Just to make sure I'm citing my sources, a lot of this begins in a book that you should read called Rational Optimist by Matt Ridley, and then I did some updating of it with current statistics.